You'd check how you look more than you'd ever admit out loud to anyone, including yourself. Not your face in the mirror, the version everyone else actually sees, the one you're constantly quietly adjusting. The photo retaken 9 times before you posted it, the reply rewritten 3 times so it sounded casual instead of anxious, instead of like you'd actually thought about it for 20 minutes. The entire conversation replaying in your head an hour later on a loop, checking exactly where you slipped and whether anyone else noticed it too. The smile you hold 2 seconds too long because the real one didn't look convincing enough on camera the first time. The version of your week you hand someone when they ask how you're doing that quietly, automatically leaves out the actual week you had underneath it. Checking your own reflection in a dark phone screen while you're waiting for something to load. Just needing to know exactly what's currently on display for everyone else, in case it needs adjusting before anyone sees it.
You tell yourself it's not vanity, and you're right, it isn't. It's closer to fear. Like if you stopped managing it for even one single day, let your guard down for one afternoon, something might slip through the cracks, and someone might actually see the part you never show anyone at all. That fear has a shape, even if you've never once tried to name it. It's older, and far more specific than you'd probably guess right now.
You didn't build this on purpose. Nobody sits down one day and deliberately decides to start performing themselves full-time for an audience. It happens gradually. One photo, one carefully worded reply, one moment where the real reaction felt too risky to show, so you showed the composed one instead. And it worked, so you kept doing it, quietly, until it stopped feeling like a performance at all and started feeling like just who you were.
And somewhere underneath all of that maintenance is a version of you that hasn't actually been looked at directly, not by anyone else, and honestly, maybe not by you either. There's a story over 2,000 years old that already knew exactly why you can't stop doing this, long before you were ever born to do it. Not a warning written to scare you into changing. A diagnosis written long before the word for it even existed. And it starts nothing like the version you already think you know, not even close to it.
His name was Narcissus, and before you picture the ending everyone already knows, you need to hear how it actually starts, because it's nothing like what you think. He wasn't in love with himself, not at first, not for most of the story. He didn't even know it was him yet. He was simply a young man who'd spent his whole life turning people away. Every single one of them pushed back quietly, long before they ever got close enough to actually matter to him.
Not cruelty exactly, he just never let anyone in far enough to actually be seen. And somewhere along the way, that distance started to feel safer than the alternative ever could. One of the people who loved him anyway was a nymph named Echo. An old curse meant she couldn't speak first, only repeat back the last words someone else had already said to her. Nothing of her own, no matter how badly she needed one for herself.
She followed him for miles through the forest anyway, waiting for the one moment she'd finally get to answer him in some voice that was actually hers. When he finally turned to face her, all she could do was echo his own words straight back at him. Helpless. Exactly as the curse demanded of her. He looked at her like she was nothing at all. Said nothing back that meant anything to her. Turned, walked away without so much as a second glance in her direction.
She wasted away after that, slowly over time, until there was nothing left of her but a voice with no body left behind to carry it through the world. That's not a side detail you can skip past to get to the good part faster. That's the actual setup for absolutely everything that happens to him next in this story, every single part of it.
So he was led to a pool of still water deep in a forest, completely untouched, the kind of water that shows you exactly what's above it, nothing else at all, nothing false. And for the first time in his entire life, he looked at something and didn't turn away from it immediately. He saw a face in the water, striking, familiar, somehow impossible to place at first glance, at first look. He fell for it completely, instantly, the way you fall for something you've been missing your whole life without ever once knowing you were missing it at all. He had no idea it was his own reflection staring back at him. He reached for it. It reached back exactly in time, exactly matched, close enough to feel entirely real. Every time he leaned in closer, it leaned in too, matching him exactly, perfectly, every time. Mirroring him perfectly, closer and closer, but never once actually close enough to touch, no matter how close he got. He stayed there for days, stopped eating, stopped everything his life had ever asked of him before this moment. Because for once, something wanted him back exactly as much as he wanted it, with zero risk it would ever pull away first, the way everyone else eventually had. Here's what gets left out of nearly every short version of this story people casually tell each other at parties. He wasn't obsessed with his own beauty, not really, not underneath it. He was starving for connection. And the only connection he'd ever let himself survive was one that could never actually reach him, never ask anything real of him, never once leave him first, the way every real person he'd ever met eventually could and probably would. That's the actual myth. Underneath a version everyone already thinks they know before they've even heard it told properly, start to finish. Avoidance. Wearing Vanity's clothes so well that even he couldn't tell the difference anymore, not from the inside looking out. A reflection is safe in a way a real person never is. It never disagrees with you, never needs anything back from you, never asks you to be anyone other than exactly who you're already performing for every single time. And it will never actually know you either. That's the part everyone somehow misses completely when they tell this story to each other. The more time you spend managing the reflection, the less anyone, including you, gets any real access to the actual person still underneath it, still waiting quietly to be asked for, still there. This isn't just an old story about a boy at a quiet pond, kept alive all this time because it happens to be pretty. People have spent the last century describing this exact same pattern, carefully, in offices and therapy rooms, under different clinical names that all trace back to the same root, the same pool, just with much better lighting now, better furniture, softer chairs, and none of the actual myth left inside it anymore these days.
There's a word for that pattern now, and you already know it. You've used it about someone else before, maybe about yourself too, without ever actually knowing where it came from originally. Narcissism. Narcissist. Both words come directly from his name, from this exact pool, from this exact myth, whether anyone using them realizes it or not. But the myth was never really about the word, or even the boy himself. It was about what happens when you can only ever trust a version of yourself that could never leave you. Here's the question worth actually sitting with tonight. Is there a version of you that you've been protecting more carefully than the actual person still underneath it? The one that always, reliably shows up composed no matter what's actually happening underneath that surface, no matter the day. See it in one line below if you want to. What's the reflection you've been managing instead of the actual person underneath it? The one nobody's met yet. Subscribing just means you won't miss whatever gets excavated next, whenever it's actually ready to go. I'll see you in the next one.